If you like what you're hearing, why not try a StephCast subscription? Only $4.95 a month if you buy a year in advance. Go to StephanieMiller.com to find out how.
Oh, hi, Eric Bowler. Good morning. Good morning.
Hey, good morning.
Oh, hi. I saved a tweet for you. My friend Rob Reiner tweeted, "We have a two-party system where one party is in favor of overthrowing the government and dying by a deadly virus. Both sides do not do it!" I'm sorry, Eric. There really has never been a starker difference, has there, in the two parties? Just that, that a governor of a major state can get away with going, oh, well, it's just like the AIDS vaccine, and no one goes, huh? No, what? No, there's no AIDS vaccine. I mean, facts, right?
I mean, that was on Fox Business. I'm pretty sure they think there is an AIDS vaccine, as I tweeted yesterday, coming from Fox News, the Alzheimer vaccine. I mean, I guess we've got them for everybody. You know, we've gone for everything. But, you know, the Rob Reiner's tweet is so good, and you know, we have a party that has literally lost its mind. 2,000 deaths a day in this country, 97% because these people won't take a free, safe, and effective vaccine. So you've got one party brainwashed, and the other party's trying to pass an infrastructure bill. And people look at it and say, oh, you know, they're both sides. We have problems on both sides. Yeah. Both sides are really, you know,
Chuck Todd literally, well, first of all, that's because Joe Biden has a credibility crisis. According to Chuck Todd. And then also, Democrats are disconnected from what's happening in the country. Because, Matt tweeted, Chuck Todd invites Republicans who spend months refusing to acknowledge Biden won the election, pushing Trump's big lie. But Chuck Todd says it's Biden who has a credibility crisis, a distortion that is literally a GOP talking point that the RNC is currently tweeting. I mean, this is a whole story Travis sent just to make sure my head exploded all the way. Chuck Todd believes a series of setbacks for Joe Biden over the past week could have far-reaching implications. I think he's got a pretty big credibility crisis on his hands, Todd said. Because of all these problems, in some ways showed up after he said something basically the exact opposite. Afghanistan withdrawal wasn't going to be messy. He never said that. Joe Biden never said that. Okay. The booster shots, he came out and essentially said 8 months and even indicated maybe we should start it as soon as 5 months. Now we're not sure if anybody under 65 is going to get a booster shot. The UN speech, look, he's got credibility issues on the world stage to make sure people still view America as not just a stable democracy, but a competent leader of the free world right now. Eric, you go. I don't know. You go.
He's just pathetic. And it was pointed out on Twitter yesterday. He only invited Republicans on his show yesterday.
Yes.
I mean, it's you know, it reflects so poorly on NBC. It reflects so poorly on MSNBC. This is just Republican garbage in and garbage out. I mean, to have sat through 4 years of Trump and to announce on
who lied every day about everything.
Every time he opened his mouth for 4 years.
I mean, Chuck Todd.
People like Chuck Todd sat on their hands because they were too afraid to confront the White House. To now suggest that Biden has a credibility problem because he promised to end a war that he just ended, that Todd and his, you know, military complex buddies loved. I mean, give me a break. This is pathetic. This is disgusting.
He said it. The stuff he says as throwaways that just seem like, oh, well, this is just common wisdom. He said, well, it's many things he said recently that just turned out not to be true. You know, turned out not to be true. And it's like, first of all, as Dr. Fauci said yesterday, you know, this is science and the data is evolving. He said what we all said is our plan is to have boosters for everybody in September, but we will follow the science of the CDC and the FDA, and that's what they're doing. Mm-hmm. That's not a lie, right? The press that refused to call what Trump did every day a lie is like, oh, well, something Biden said isn't true. It's like there is a difference, right, in evolving science and telling flat-out lies every day.
Yeah, no, I mean, you know, all during Afghanistan, you know, that White House, the Pentagon, State Department answered hundreds and hundreds of press questions. They could not find a single lie in that 3 weeks of that crisis. And my God, if that had been the Trump White House, and you know, this booster thing, like, okay, it's an interesting story. The idea that Americans can't sleep at night because the CDC is changing its booster timetable, like, give me a break. Just give me a break.
I feel like, Eric, it's Q hysteria on everything. And I mean, as your piece says, has Biden's approval rating plummeted? Nope. But you wouldn't know it from the coverage, right?
No. You know, and you know, part of it is the press invested so much in Afghanistan. And so one of the ways we indirectly saw that was this hype about Biden's polls. Well, If we say Afghanistan is going to be the collapse of his presidency, if we say that has ruined his credibility, that means, watch these polls, And there are a couple of outliers that had him at 42, 43%. But if you go to 538 and you look at the last 20 polls posted in this country, he's basically polling at 47%. This was the crisis. This was the collapse. He's lost 4 points in about 6 weeks. That is not a collapse.
Yeah.
Ronald Reagan lost 19 points in 5 days when Iran-Contra story broke. That is a collapse.
As you pointed out, George W. Bush cratered 16 points in the months following the launch of the Iraq War.
That is a collapse. And as I point out, if you want to kind of get into the weeds and the numbers, Obama, from 8 months from inauguration to his first September, lost 7 points over 8 months. Biden has lost the exact same 7 points. It's called the honeymoon is over. There's a slow progression away from the president. This is totally normal. Yes, Biden's down 4 points this summer. Okay, but and look at the latest poll over the weekend. How it was played. Fox News poll. Biden at 50%. This is one of his best polls all summer. Good luck finding a single headline about that piece. And Fox News itself didn't mention his 50% until the 11th paragraph of its own article on its poll.
And then
there is an absolute invested narrative, but the data just doesn't support it right now.
That's got to sting, Eric. As we pointed out earlier in the show, the Fox News poll shows almost 70% are for President Biden's mask mandates, etc., despite all their disinformation. Right? That's got to sting. I mean,
it does. And as I pointed out in my piece, the press is obsessed with Biden polls. But they're not really focusing a lot on what you just talked about. The polls that really matter right now are the absolute strong majority support for vaccine mandate or testing mandate. But the press wants to pretend, this country is split 50-50. We're not. Well, there's a 70% percentage of the country that is sane and science-based and wants to move forward. But those polls aren't really grabbing all the headlines.
Yeah. Well, if you shy away from selfies or demand photo approval for everything like me, or those dreaded Zoom calls because of bags and puffiness under your eyes, here's the secret for looking fabulous on Zoom or anywhere you go. Genucel. From the makers of Chamonix, Genucel is patented plant stem cell therapy specifically targeting eye puffiness and bags. It is a lifesaver. Genucel is incredibly powerful natural serum that works instantly. Genucel guarantees you'll see further results in as little as 12 hours and dramatic improvement in just 12 weeks or your money back. Get brilliant long-term results. It is cruelty-free. They offer free shipping and free returns. And right now you can save 50% off all Genucel packages right now during the final days of their summer clearance sale. That's right. I said 50%. Just go to lovegenucel.com/Stephanie to receive 50% off all their Genucel packages. I love it. You will too. Love, GENUCEL.com/Stephanie. Lovegenucel.com/Stephanie. Yeah, I loved how you put it. You said the media's falling in love with their favorite Dems in disarray storyline. The same media shrugged at Trump's chronically awful approval rating. Yeah. I mean, we barely heard about it, but as you said, I remember there were tons of times he was in the 30s. His high was like a 45 or something, right?
Yeah, in 2018, he was getting a lot of this press because he was hitting his all-time high in the polling. And a headline after headline, and you had to click on it to realize he's at 44%. I mean, that was like Obama's bottom.
Yeah.
And we're gonna spend a month talking about Trump's resurging polling. When the press was trying to crucify Biden in Afghanistan, they're talking about the collapse. Exactly 4 years ago, at that point, Trump was at 37%. 8 months into his presidency. But no, you never saw about how the walls were caving in on Trump. His presidency was over before it began. He had a credibility problem, any of that. It was assumed that he would have awful polling, and that was fine because what mattered was his base supported him. So that was the news angle for 4 years. Oh my gosh, the base support. Well, guess what? Joe Biden's polling at 91% among Democrats right now.
It is incredible, Eric, when you read...
Where are the Biden-based stories? Where are the Biden voter stories in the diners? We don't see those.
Well, thank you, Eric. We're the vast majority. We have to keep reminding ourselves because we're like, aren't we the 70-something percent? 75% that's vaccinated, that in most polls is for vaccine mandates, mask mandates, like every issue. You're like, Why is there no coverage about
Right.
the vast majority instead of the 20-30% that is holding this country hostage, literally?
I mean, you talk about the silent majority. I mean, the press has created this silent majority. I mean, they are just, they're just not that interested. And as you say, 70% of this country is moving on, is accepting science, wants to move forward. And we have a brainwashed 30% COVID zombies. And they get all the attention. Not only do they get the attention, but again, we're split 50-50. We are not split 50-50.
I mean, doesn't it? Yeah, it culminates in this past weekend, doesn't it? Where, the vast majorities of Republicans or Fox News watchers, I don't know, think Trump won the election, think it was Antifa that attacked the Capitol.
Yeah.
I mean, Eric, how does any of that make sense? So you're going to rally for the Trumpers that are in jail, but it was Antifa. But a large percentage still believe it was leftists that attacked the Capitol. So you're going to, I mean, none of it even makes any sense anymore, right? How they can believe all these different things, that we need justice for the J6, but anyway, but it's all liberals that did it anyway.
Gaps in logic are not a barrier for these people.
I love this one. You retweeted, according to Breitbart, liberals are pushing the vaccine aggressively because if liberals are for it, MAGA will be against it and MAGA will die, therefore handing liberals more elections. And I'm first of all like, they're onto us. And secondly, you just tweeted death cult part infinity. I mean,
yeah. I mean, we are just seeing examples after examples after examples. Alabama last year, Alabama, or currently this year, has more dead people than births.
Yes.
I mean, you have to go back to the Civil War, if even then. I mean, what is happening to this country in the South? I'm trying to remember this. There was some other crazy statistics about the Florida deaths. And look, these people are, and we've talked about this before. The press just does not want to talk about brainwashing. You cannot talk about that and talk about mainstream Republican politics. That word is forbidden. What else? How else do you describe this? New York Times had a piece over the weekend about this antibody treatment, which is insanely expensive and isn't. There's a free, safe, and effective vaccine, and these people are bankrupting their mortgages so they can take this. I mean, how else do you describe that besides brainwashing? There's no other description.
This experimental treatment, right? I mean, they're fine with that, and they don't know what's in it, and on and on. And I mean, they're paying hundreds of dollars and then going to jail for trying to use fake vaccine cards. I mean, half of this, or 30%, excuse me, of this country's lost its mind.
And every one of their kids had to have a vaccine for measles and mumps before they showed up to kindergarten. Nobody said boo.
Yeah.
I mean, we're all just shaking our head, and it just gets more pronounced every week, and the Republican Party does nothing about it.
We are just in a stream of bull, and you are just the twig that comes by every Monday that I must grab onto. Thank you, Eric. It is essential that you read
pressrun.media.
Thank you.
Yes. And subscribe, please.
Yes, subscribe, please. It is essential. Thank you, Eric.
Have a great week.